All right, NEF 45 is just 2 short days away. It all goes down at the Aura Nightclub in Portland, Maine. And I have Greg Williams back on the show to preview this exciting card. Greg, how are you?
I'm great, man. Great to talk to you and great to see you. I'm really looking forward to Friday. I think it's a great card. I've looked it up and down, and I'm excited for that. I'm excited to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Me as well. We're going to be your commentators for the pay-per-view. So if you can't make it to the Aura Nightclub and be there in attendance, make sure to get that pay-per-view so you can check out all of the great fights. Let's start with this main event. I don't know about you, Greg, but I'm really excited to see Josh Harvey back in action. It's been almost 2 years since he's fought, and he lost that upset to Jesse Erickson. I mean, a lot of people might not say it's an upset, but I guess maybe on paper, if you look at it, when you look at Josh's record, I think most people favored him to win that fight. And Jesse came in there, did his thing, and submitted him. Do you think we're going to see a fighter in Josh Harvey with a massive chip on his shoulder and something to prove in defending his featherweight title here?
That's, I was sitting cage side. You probably were too when Jesse submitted him with that armbar. That was a slick armbar. That was really a surprising moment. You kind of figured, Jesse's had a long career, and he wasn't. You kind of had to favor Josh in that one. Jesse pulled it off. Congrats to him. That was a real epic moment of that whole card. That was a great standout moment in my mind. So yeah, I do think Josh has got something to prove, because he's obviously very driven, and he's with a new coach now, new school, in Primo Bella Rosa. And I would have to say that alone, when you're in new school, and there's a couple of new schools starting out, I think there's something to prove collectively about your school, that you want to prove that you guys belong. I think that's a really strong motivator as well as him wanting to show everybody where he is and where he belongs. So I do think he's got something to prove. And the fact that 3 fights or so fell out, I went to the weigh-ins for the last fight, and the guy was coming and he didn't show up, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking when you cut all that weight too. So I think he does have a chip on his shoulder. I look for him to come out really strong, really fast and aggressive, and calculated, but ready to take care of business.
Yeah, and it's really interesting here because Brando, his opponent, he's 9-8 as a mixed martial artist, but he hasn't fought since 2013. He has fought some big names, Sal Almeida, just one of those. It was a big name. He lost that fight. Pedro Gonzalez, he actually beat. But the last few years, he's been boxing, and unfortunately for him, he's 0-5, and he's been finished in all 5 of those boxing bouts, and early on too. So I'm not quite sure, how good his stand-up is going to be against Josh. And we all know Josh's wrestling pedigree. If for whatever reason he was having some success on the feet, Josh would get this fight to the ground, I would think, rather easily. Now, I'm expecting Josh to go in there and really look impressive and defend the belt. To be honest, I haven't seen a whole lot of Brando myself, but really intriguing matchup, especially the champion coming off of almost 2 years on the shelf.
Yeah, this is the anticipation of, what has Brando been working on? What has he been doing? Has he been, you see his boxing, he didn't fare well in his last boxing matches, but maybe he's been really honing his jiu-jitsu craft, so maybe that is up to a level. This guy beat Pedro Gonzalez, an absolute stud in New England. So, that's why we fight, to find out, man. We find out, and I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see Josh Harvey. He's exciting, and I can't wait to see what his opponent has to bring to him.
Yeah, no doubt. Great. That's going to be our main event here for NEF 45. So you'll have to stick around till the end of the show to catch that big super fight there. Let's just go right to the rest of these pro cards. I want to start with another guy who we haven't seen fight for a while, Matt Denning. He's 5-11, but don't let that record confuse you, because this is a guy who's been fighting really tough dudes. He hasn't fought any cupcakes. He hasn't taken any shortcuts. This guy goes in there. He'll take on anyone, anytime. And John Dupreeh, a former wrestling national champion, or I believe he's ranked number 2, in the whole country when he was in college. He was 2-0 as an amateur fighter, and now he is here making his pro debut. and man, he looked good in both of his amateur fights. So really intriguing matchup here. How do you see this one going? Do you feel like Dupreeh's wrestling is going to just be the deciding factor here? Because Denning, he had like 300 plus wins in high school as a wrestler. So I'm intrigued by this one, but I'm not quite sure how I see it shaking out.
Very interesting matchup. Obviously, the pedigree with Dupreeh is a lot more. He's a lot more of a higher pedigree, I think, college wrestling as opposed to high school. So I think he excelled at a college level a lot more. But you can't discount Denning. I know that he's in a different place right now mentally. I spoke to him at the last event, and he will fight anybody, anytime. I mean, that's a great idea. I say the same thing, like I'll fight anybody anytime, but if Mike Tyson stands in front of me, I'm running the other way. So, I mean, there's certain people I just won't fight. Dupreeh, he's been on the radar of fighters like that should really excel, and I've seen him coaching a lot. Haven't seen it. He obviously hasn't fought too much. It's his first professional fight. Is that right?
This is his first pro fight. Correct.
First pro fight. So I guess there's some unknowns, you know. I mean, this is MMA. It's not wrestling. You got a guy who has a higher pedigree against the guy who's got a lot more experience. So it should be, again, an interesting matchup. You know, I just think I can't wait. I'm excited for it. I'm really excited to see how everything plays out, because there's a lot more than just fighting. There's a lot of personal dynamics and things that are going on that are really going to play into it, and be interesting to see how it comes out.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued. Denning seems to be in a really good spot in his life right now in every way, shape, and form, and things are clicking for him. So I'm excited to see what happens here in his return fight to the cage. One thing that I do have to mention to you here moving forward, you know, you're going to be careful mentioning Mike Tyson around me. Otherwise, I'm going to have to break up my Mike Tyson impression. So don't worry about I'm going to eat your children if you mess with me. So just
hits so hard. He's got a mule kick so freaking hard. It's unbelievable how hard.
I know
I love Mike Tyson.
Great TV. All right, CJ Ewer, Sean Ray. CJ Ewer, I've always been impressed with how good and how well-rounded of a fighter he is. He's 3-3, and we haven't seen him fight for a while either. This seems like a fight for him to come back, get a solid win against the guy in Sean Ray that's 0-1. You know, again, I hate saying, you know, somebody should definitely win a fight, but when you just have a lot more tape on someone and you know how good they are, and CJ's been fighting studs himself, I feel like this is a fight for him to get above that 500 mark, get to 4-3 in his career, and then, you know, who knows if he's going to make a run maybe at an NEF title. But what do you expect to see here in this welterweight matchup?
Well, you didn't get to see a lot from Sean Ray in his last fight because he fought an absolute monster, obviously. So who knows? What I asked the question: what are people fighting for? What is CJ Ewer fighting for? You know, I think he's fighting to get back into the mix and go forward. Sean Ray, I hope that he's bringing a lot of intensity and ready to prove. You know, his last fight was a tough one, man. I mean, he really didn't. He wasn't in the fight much because the other Caleb missing
Hall.
Caleb Hall, yeah. Caleb Hall is a dominant force. So really didn't see much. So I'm hoping to see some fireworks. I'm hoping to see a well-matched fight. I think it's going to be great. Let's see what they bring.
Yeah, one thing's for sure. Caleb Hall's an absolute monster. I hope the NEF can bring him back up again soon and fight for the promotion here, because I really enjoy watching him compete.
Yeah, I do too. But I hope they get him here because it doesn't look like he's going to be around the local circuits for long.
Yeah, very, very true. All right, Zach Richard making his pro debut against Carl Langston. One thing that is just crystal clear to me is Carl Langston, don't look at his record, 0-5. He's way better than 0-5. I mean, he's decorated as a stand-up fighter, Taekwondo. I believe he was like the silver medalist or gold medalist for when he like the Junior Olympics. I have to refer to my notes as to just how high he placed, but that's how good he is. And everyone up here in the Bangor area when he was at Young's MMA a lot, raved about how great his stand-up is. And in this matchup here with Zach Ray, one of my biggest concerns, I guess, looking at this fight is, is there going to be a big size difference? I know Zach has fought at higher weight classes, and he's a wrestling state champion. And I wonder if that size difference is going to come into play here in this fight. But if this plays out on the feet, I mean, Carl Langston is legit. And Zach knows that. He said it in the past. And Zach being obviously the former NEF amateur lightweight champion, I love this matchup. This fight here, for me personally, Greg, is one of the fights I'm looking forward to most the whole night. I can't wait. I think it's going to be fireworks.
Yeah, I agree. Zach Richard, I've hung out with his team, with him when he was at Nostos. He's over at Evolution now. I heard an interview out of convenience. He's going there. I think he's doing well. That's interesting. Both schools are great. I can't wait to see which Zach Richard comes out. I remember when he fought Mike Murray. He was really grinding. It was a real grinder. Almost looked like his cardio wasn't up to snuff or something. It almost looked like he was just hanging on. But he won that fight. He had a great fight. But I know he can strike, and I know he can, and he's great on the ground. He's a great wrestler. So it's going to be interesting to see. Carl's been around for a long time too. I mean, my team fought on the first NEF, and we've been around for all of them. So I've seen him, and he almost specifically fights for NEF. A lot of his fights are with them. So I've gotten a good look at him. A good athlete, great athlete. So it's a great athlete against another great athlete. I can't wait to see it. I would imagine Carl's going to try and keep it stand up and knock him out. And I think Zach's doesn't really care either way. He's a tough kid. He's tough as nails. I've seen him get hit and shake it off like nothing. So I think that is one of my favorite fights of the night too. There's so many good ones, but that's up there.
Yeah, 1000%. Another fight I'm really looking forward to, Mark Gardner, Nick Alley. Both of these guys are high level. And Mark Gardner went into Bellator and lost to Dalton Rasta, who's an absolute monster. That guy's an absolute monster. I think Rasta just cracked the top 10 for Bellator. Nick Alley, most recently, he lost to Solomon Renfro. Prior to that, he beat John Gotti and Jay Ellis. I mean, it's Jay Ellis. I think now it just hit 100 losses, which is mind-boggling to me. And he's on this card too. I mean, but he's fought he's fought Rocco Martin, Gerald Mershart, Anthony Pettis. I mean, he's just fought the who's who. So it's just unbelievable how many unbelievable fighters that he's been in there with. But getting back to my point, I can't wait for this fight. This fight's going to be really fantastic. And we've seen how good Gardner is on the ground. The guy is super skilled. So I don't know quite as much about Nick Alley. So can you tell me a little bit about what kind of a style we might see from him against Gardner, who's well known for his ground game?
I've seen Nick fight at Combat Zone quite a few times. He fights for Team Link, Ed Carr, and he's one of their top prospects. I think he handed Gotti his first loss. Is that right? Like he was 5-0, and he handed him his first loss. And that kid is being hyped up, and and that was a great victory for him. Really good stand up, really good Muay Thai style kick fighting. And from what I understand, if I'm wrong, let me know. But I think Mark Gardner teaches the Muay Thai component of the MMA over at the academy, because I think he's pretty focused on Muay Thai fighting as well. So I expect this to be just a stand-up banger. Totally.
Yeah. Again, this is another fight that circled for me as one of the fights that you just can't miss on the card. I remember watching Mark Gardner beat Carlton Charles back in the day for the NEF promotion. And Carlton Charles is a physical specimen, and Gardner went in there and ended up finishing him there a little bit later. And I've just been really high on him ever since. So again, 21 total fights as of now, NEF 45. 6 pro fights. We've talked about 5 of the 6, but there's 15 amateur fights here. 3 of them are for titles. We have 2 vacant titles up for grabs. The flyweight title, Caleb Austin and Tyler Smith, and then the bantamweight title, Felipe Gunter and Teddy Politis. I want to start with Caleb Austin and Tyler Smith. Now, Smith said prior to that he feels like Austin's just going to be doing everything he can to get him to the ground and keep this on the ground, because that's the only way he has to win. But I got to tell you, from what I've seen in the past from Caleb Austin, this kid is an absolute beast. He is so good. I mean, his wrestling pedigree is through the roof. I'm so excited for this fight, and it seems like Austin has a really game opponent in Smith at Evolution Athletics.
I love it. I really like Caleb Austin, you know, and we just fought him. So he just beat my guy, James Ploss, in the last NEF. And I knew it would be a tough fight for one reason. Caleb Austin's been wrestling since he was 3 years old. And that is a difficult thing to overcome. You can, he's 21 now, 21, maybe 22. You can't add those, you can't pack that amount of experience into a guy getting ready for a fight. So there's a huge advantage right there in the wrestling, because he's been doing it his whole life. So he really understands and is so comfortable on the ground. And Tyler looks very game. So, you know, I would venture to say that I don't think Caleb's seen this type of aggression and power coming from that he's going to see from Tyler Smith.
Yeah.
So, and he looks me. I watched a couple of his tapes, and he looks like he's down for anything. Like he just looks like a junkyard dog. Like he's ready to go, man. And Caleb always looks like a real happy-go-lucky guy, but he's all business. So it's a great clash of styles, I think. You know, so I'm excited for it. Of course, you know, I know Caleb a little bit. I really like the kid. I'm not going to be pulling for either one. I'll be unbiased, but I do like Caleb a lot.
Yeah, and you know the NEF is very high on Caleb as well. And this is a kid that really just seems to be groomed to maybe have that belt wrapped around his waist soon. And this is his chance to win the vacant belt here. Really excited about that fight. Felipe Gunter at a First Class MMA, Teddy Politis at an Evolution Athletics, and other barn burner of a fight, vacant title on the line. I've seen a little bit more about Gunter leading up to this fight, and he looks like an absolute stud, really, and training under John Rayo in First Class MMA. You know, he's got a lot of great supporting cast there to help him get ready for this fight. So this is another interesting matchup here. Can you kind of break this down stylistically for anyone out there that maybe hasn't seen these two fight? What kind of a fight we might see come fight night at NEF 45?
I really, you know, this is one I'm not too familiar with. I do know the schools. Obviously, Evolution is a top school. Evolution, their fighters always come ready, and that's where Felipe Gunter against Teddy Politis, right?
Yep.
So Politis, he's coming from a great school, a lot of great training partners, and so is Felipe Gunter. But I don't know. I don't have too much background on either one of these guys. So it's a little tough to talk about their styles. I'm not really sure where they're at.
Well, they're both undefeated. Gunter, he's got 2 finished victories. He's got an RNC and a guillotine, and then he's got a UD win over Hannon Sanford. On the other hand, Politis, this is a guy that has won both of his fights, finished in the first round, a Kimura over Kevin LeMay at NEF 42, and then most recently at NEF 44 over Tyler Perrin, an arm triangle choke. So both of these guys look like they're well-versed on the ground. So this could be a grappling jiu-jitsu match, or who knows, maybe their skill sets on the ground might set each other off, and they could be firing it off on the feet. Either way, I know the fans are going to be in for a treat, because when you get 2 undefeated fighters that are looking for their first belt, they're going to come in and bring it. So that will be your bantamweight title that is on the line. And then we have the defending champion of the featherweight division, Nate Grimard at Anostos MMA. I love this kid. I think he's absolutely going to be a phenomenal fighter as he blossoms and turns pro. And this fight right here against Billy Wilson is his toughest fight to date. There's no doubt about it. There's no getting around it. He's coming out of Jackson Winklejohn, one of the biggest gyms in the world. I'm actually wondering, is Greg Jackson or is Mike Winklejohn going to be in attendance? Because that'd be kind of cool. But this fight I'm really excited about. And I know you know Grimard pretty well. So tell me a little bit about the evolution of him as a fighter, and maybe what we can see from him in this first title defense.
Oh, he's tough. He's just a tough kid. He's a nice kid, but he's tough. He at Nostos, I think he's a grinder. He's a grinder. He puts in the work. He puts in the time. He just works it out, man. And I applaud him so much, and Devin for looking for a tough fight. If you want to become a pro, you better be taking on guys that are going to go to the pro level. You got to be you got to be looking for the best. And they went out and found a kid who's like #1 in the Southwest, the #1 in like a huge region, and really coming from an incredible school. Like, this is a mountain they got to climb. So he's ready for it. And if he's game for it, the mindset to be ready to climb that mountain, to fight somebody who is at the top of their game right now and probably heading to a pro career as you are, those trajectories are going to combine, and we're going to see that. That's a great thing to see from it, and no matter what, Nathan will learn from this. Win, lose, or draw, when you put yourself in that position against somebody as good as this kid who's coming out here, Billy the Kid, I call him the Kid, but I don't know how old he is, but he ain't no kid when it comes to fighting. When you put up against that, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn a lot, whether you win, lose, or draw. And that's a lot to be said for taking tough fights. So kudos to him.
Yeah, and I really think that the NEF fans should be licking their chops and giving Matt Peterson and Nick DeSalvo a nice round of applause for making this matchup, because you don't really see these high-level amateur fights at this level regionally anymore, at least not for a while. This is one of the more intriguing amateur fights that I can think of in recent memory. So this one in particular is one to circle on the NEF 45 card. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
That's going to pretty much do it here for this preview show. I mean, I know we could talk about every fight a little bit more. I will say one thing before we get on out of here. Another fighter that I know is making his amateur debut here at NEF 45 is Brandon Oldenburg. He's fighting at middleweight against Bryant Wade out of Titan Athletics. And, Brandon Oldenburg, I've seen some video and some stuff on him, and he looks the part. He's a big guy, and training with Primo Bellarosa at Vision Quest MMA. I'm just really excited to see how good this kid can be, because not only does he have Josh Harvey to train with, he now has Ryan Sanders, who's been in the gym sharpening his skill set. So I have my eyes on him. We obviously haven't seen a whole lot of him because this will be his debut, but really intrigued about this matchup. And anytime the big boys get in there and throw it around a little bit, that's always exciting.
Yeah, so much. The level of competition is coming up so high. The level of coaching is increasing. The level of amateur O&Os that are fighting, it seems to just be getting better and better. And this new group that's coming up, it's exciting to see when some of these new guys come up, how they fare, how they handle themselves. And I'm sure that's what we'll be talking about. We don't have any tape on them, but we're going to see how they do first time out. I can't wait.
Yeah. Again, it's this Friday at the Aura Nightclub in Portland, Maine, NEF 45. It all goes down there. Again, I'm Ryan Jarrell. This is Greg Williams. We will be your cage side commentators for the evening. That's going to do it for our preview show. Hope you guys liked it. Hit that like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we will see you guys again soon.
See you in Portland.